Yeah, so I mean, like right now, what we have is like this Twitter way of pitching to journalists, and just having 140 characters might not be enough information for the journalist to decide if they want to come back and ask you follow-up questions to follow through with you. And so, I mean, it's a good idea that we brought up during the interview, and we should totally be doing
Actually,
sort of a system where it could be as simple as some sort of a Google Doc interface, where we give you some instructions on top of what to talk about. You write your thing. At the end, you say tweet it. You put in your headline, but also we'll include that link to that Google Doc, so that the journalist gets your headline as well as the follow-up info, and that based on that they will decide if they want to follow through with you.
It could almost be as short as like a Twitter. It doesn't have to be long. It could be like the 140 character headline and then the 250 character word description or something like that. Nothing more.
It doesn't have to be long.
Yeah.
But if you look at what does a journalist need to decide if that's something he wants to do or not, you can write them a press release. You can put in a lot of fluff in your text. But the core elements that they're looking for, okay, is this an exclusive? Has that person gotten some press before? Who's the person behind it? Just by providing your Twitter account, then the person behind it becomes more obvious. Who are your followers? That tells you who the person is. What's your Twitter bio? That tells you who you are. And so you can have, in my opinion, a pretty short pitch to a journalist, but if it's structured in a good way, if you tell people how to structure their pitch, then the journalist will find way more utility in reading that, and it's going to, that pitch will contain more information, so it's going to have a higher information content than purely, some article, freehand article where you just write whatever you want, and then the journalist has to sort through and then pick up the elements that are relevant to them.
See, this is awesome, because this is exactly why I recommend to students that they start their own site. Like I have amiranzur.com, right? Now you guys know me a bit better than I might know a lot of other people, because you've seen that site and then you've checked out my previous interviews or whatever it might be. So what I recommend to people is having their own website before they even launch their startup, like months or years before, right? Where they're building up their brand equity. So what happened is I started, firstly from like amiranzur.wordpress.com, a free thing, but I was practicing my pitch. It had my bio, it had my resume, all that stuff, because people do business with people that they know, like, and trust, right? So I have, and even videos like this, who are, I'm just putting it on. But now what it's doing is building my credibility a bit. Now what I have over time, in the beginning I had zero press. Then as I start getting articles, or if I got on television, I make sure I get a copy of that thing, because I've been on CNBC and been on all these big channels like years ago. I never got a copy of it, and I lost a big asset, because actually, like for instance, I've been featured in Gulf News. Now the fact is, not many people might have read that magazine on that day, but because I take that headline and I put it on my website, now even a year later it comes in useful. So exactly what you're saying, because that's why I really like your product, is because I have that credibility on amiranzur.com. So for me to do it, it's perfect, because I can tweet. Like I was always thinking, okay, how do you get these journalists, right? Because there was a way to do it. You have to do a search, by hashtag, or doing a search by CNN or whatever. But you guys have done that already. That's saving me a lot of time. Then I don't need to, I can tailorize it. So every time I have appeared on media, it's because of a connection. Yeah. And so now what I can do is find out that Anderson Cooper is talking about the weather being bad in Iraq. And I can say, hey, you know what would make the weather better is my book talks about it, or somehow make that link in. Now that's what I've become better at doing as well. In order to pitch, is I've had now people that are contacting me, journalists, they're like, you have anything to say about this? I don't want to mention the topic that I just got on but it was like completely non-linked to my stuff, and I found a way to link it in, so that the internet helps in this way, so I stick to what I'm good at, which is internet and being known as that guy. But whether it's a war in Iraq, I can say, hey, you know how the internet is helping people get out of war? Yeah, so those things. And so every one of you're right, they should either have their own, you can tell them to set up a page on Tumblr.
Yeah.
You can have a startup page. You can have a ways to use PressPass.me.
Of course, yeah.
Best practices.
Exactly, like how to pitch to journalists. One thing that keeps coming up is like building your reputation and finding relevance. Like I can't stress how important those words are. And maybe right now Anderson Cooper isn't the right journalist for you. Maybe it's the local newspaper that's like close by you, right? Because that's the book or that's the information that they'd find relevant, because they care about their community. The closer the journalists who are closer to you care more about. So if I'm from the Middle East, like a lot of newspapers, when I was pitching to them, what we're doing is, how is this relevant to the UAE, or how is this relevant to Dubai? So I had to tell them, hey, look, we're located out of here, and we're planning to add journalists from here. So that's where like I can see relevancy being very important.
And the cool thing is, in this global economy, is that even if you're in a village somewhere, you get in your local newspaper, you take that article and you put it online onto your website, and to another journalist, it's just as big as being anywhere else, right?
Exactly. Because the journalistic process, or journalists in general, they're journalists because they go through a process. They make sure they vet you. They make sure that your information's accurate. They fact check. They follow up with you. And anything that they put online and they put up is based on their reputation. So if one journalist has gone through that process, the next journalist that comes along is going to say, okay, cool, that guy's already done that with this person, so that's where you build your credibility, right? And so you've already done it once. The second time is easier, and the third time gets even easier.
Perfect. And this is the thing why, for all of us, it's to know that being in media is a long-term game. Because journalists, they don't want to get embarrassed, and anyone can fake being anyone. I'll give you a real example, actually. I was doing interviews like this at an event a couple of months ago, big internet people, and this lady comes up to me and says, hey, why don't you interview me? I'm so-and-so, right? And I was like, okay. And she tells me, like, I'm interviewing her like this, about her company that's going to be IPO'd at $100+ billion, $150 billion, she told me. And I have the whole interview on my iPhone, actually. And then I would tell my friend, oh my God, you gotta meet this person because she's, amazing, like, this thing. And it wasn't kind of making sense to me, but whatever. Anyway, he's like, yo, this is a total scam. And I Googled her name, and it was all full of scams. And now I almost put the interview up there, and that would have really hurt my reputation, because it's actually a big scam right now. And she's literally got on her Facebook profile airplanes, with photoshopped with her company logo and stuff, right? So I'm not going to tell you on camera who it is, but I'll tell you I'll send you the link. Yeah. But basically, what happens is she's got photoshopped pictures of her with Obama and all that stuff. And I wouldn't have, if I was just a quick journalist now, I could have, if I was working for CNN or something, and if I just released that in the by, she could have used that segment to promote, to build up her credibility. So that's why it's but now you see, as bloggers, there's no barriers. Like, I can just put this video on, I could be anyone, right? And so, but now what do I have to do is make it legit in order to build my reputation. Because look, if your website sucked and I'm promoting it, I'm losing my reputation.
Exactly.
Right?
And people tell you, if it sucks, right? So that's one of the things about building credibility, focus on building something or doing something great. Focus on building a good product, building a good service, doing something awesome. Always try to be honest. And even bloggers building reputations. As bloggers become bigger, they have a reputation to protect, so they have to go through some sort of vetting process.
Yep.
We're actually planning on putting on credible bloggers pretty soon in the future.
Okay, perfect.
So we're expanding from journalists to credible bloggers.
Awesome. So look forward to be featured on that. All right.